International civil aviation regulations most times compels aircraft rescue and firefighting operations at all airports that serve scheduled passenger air carriers. These are the only civilian fire protection services that are specifically regulated by any government. It's a special category of firefighting that involves the response, evacuation, and possible rescue of passengers and crew of an aircraft in a typical airport ground emergency. The activities of these emergency responders is our interest. Plus, the Lagos Airport Cat 3 ILS equipment is test run. It's Aviation This Week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi, and you're most welcome.
The aviation industry is an important contributor to economic development. It has not only increased world trade activity by enabling faster and easier movement of passengers and goods, but has also provided jobs for millions of people. The Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting ARFF is a special category of firefighting that involves the response, hazard mitigation, evacuation, and possible rescue of passengers and crew of an aircraft involved in a typical airport ground emergency.
The airport is categorized into Cat 9, and by Cat 9 there are certain requirements that is involved. We are supposed to have by standard 3 major vehicles, but I can bet you right now we have about 6 major vehicles. We have about 4 stations here. In my substation I have another vehicle there, and each of these vehicles carry different capacities of water as required. By standard, the requirement for water is 23,400 liters, but I can bet you each of the vehicles. One vehicle is carrying 11,000 liters, another one 12,500 liters. By the time you multiply, what we have on wheel right now is about 60,000 liters.
The principles of safety and security, including fire coverage or protection, is critical at any airport. Fire coverage is classified from 1 to 10, and response to fire requires speed. For any emergency, the vehicle carries out a pump and roll action. Airport fire incidents can occur at any time, but past incidents include the VIP lounge fire at the Sam Mbakwe Airport in Imo State early this year, and the severe damage to a turboprop aircraft belonging to Overland Airways while undergoing servicing at the airline hangar in Lagos in 2018. Ensuring that aircraft, passengers and the terminal are safe also rests on continuous training of firemen. Then to the firefighting watchroom, where aircraft operations of landing and takeoff is monitored. The office also serves as a communication hub for fire officers that aids the delivery of services.
Whenever an emergency information is received from the watchroom attendants, the first thing they do is to activate the fire alarm bell. This sends signals to the men at the bay that there is an emergency, and then that is followed by the public address system. The emergency information is relayed through the public address system, stating the location, the type of emergency. All the information will be given to the crew, and then the next thing, the crew proceeds to the location of the incident.
In here, equipment lines the space to aid the work of firemen.
This is called the 118.1 frequency. It's a monitoring frequency. So we use it to monitor information between the pilot and the control tower. Whenever an aircraft is within 10 nautical miles of the station, we can monitor the information. So in case there's any incoming or outgoing outbound aircraft that has an emergency, the watchroom attendant quickly picks it, alerts the men, and then the emergency procedure will be activated.
The mass casualty potential of an aviation emergency is high, so the speed with which emergency response equipment and personnel arrive at the scene of an emergency is of great importance. Their arrival and initial mission to secure the aircraft against all hazards, particularly fire, increases the rate of survival of both passengers and crew on board.
On our interview segment, a senior official of the ARFF at the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria is our guest, and it takes us through aircraft rescue and firefighting.
In the aviation industry, we are regarded as the last line of defense in the safety chain. So when every other thing fails, the aerodrome rescue and firefighting service must be able to do the needful. So an aircraft or airports are categorized based on aerodrome rescue and firefighting category, based on what we're able to provide. So that is what gives an airport its category. So it's the rescue services that is available in airport determines the category of that airport. We have had instances where even foreign aircrafts, we attended to them and they gave us commendation. Because the important thing is to get alert early and respond as quickly as possible. So the critical period in handling aircraft emergency is within the first 3 minutes. That is why we must meet at all time, meet the response time. We call it the response time. So if you don't meet that response time, you will not be able to save the life of the passengers and the aircraft. Each type of aircraft has the particular discharge rate. You need to, quantity of media, water and foam, you need to discharge to control the fire within that critical area. Fire is best controlled at its incipient stages. Because some of these aircraft you see, they carry a lot of fuel, the fuselage burns, everything. So if you are not able to meet that response time, forget it. But we have been meeting our response time. We had a standby, an aircraft coming to land with failed engine. So we've had serious fire in an aircraft like Delta Airline that we handled. He made an air return because the engine was on fire. We handled it. So, you know, we are operating from here. We cover all the airports in the country. Even if the airport closed, the firemen will be on duty because there could be air return, there could be, so we run shift. We cover all the airport 24 hours. We have competency-based training. But before you become a competent fireman in the airport, you will undergo series of training. We start with basic firefighter, crew commander. Then once you become a crew commander, you can be entrusted to handle a truck and have like 2 or 3 people under you to command. Then we now graduate to watch commander, where you can command 2 or 3 trucks. Then you can be a fire manager, a manager station. So that is how the training. The other trainings that we do along the way, they must be a driver and competent pump operator to manage the vehicle. Then you do breathing apparatus training. So along the way also, we have gadgets that protects the firemen, their breathing apparatus, their protective clothing. So our training is intensive. We'll have to move, attain a speed of 80 kilometers an hour in 40 seconds. So, and they can attain the speed of 110 kilometers. So information is key. If you don't manage aircraft emergency, so anything that you discover that is abnormal, inform the control tower. The control tower will pass it to us. We are there for the airlines.
And now to the test run of the Cat 3 instrument landing system in Lagos. The clamor by airlines for better navigational facilities in Nigeria may just have received a boost.
So extend the center line.
This is the Category 3 instrument landing system and distance measuring equipment for the Lagos airport. It's undergoing a test run, which inevitably means a departure from the past, ensuring that aircraft are able to land in adverse weather conditions.
During the alignment, the engineers will ensure that it is aligned with the center line on the runway, and also at the other end that it is aligned with the narrow or a glide path or a descent path that will be comfortable and nice to be able to arrive, like I said, overhead the threshold at a good height to land, to make a normal landing. After that is done, we'll have a calibration in which we'll bring an aircraft in to actually fly it and test and certify that it's good to go.
The test one indicates that all the ILS components, localizer, glide slope and distance measuring equipment are propagating signals ideally.
The guidance is by propagation of radio signals. So something has a land-based equipment that gives out radio signals that is received by an aircraft. The aircraft will have equipment that will receive these signals and be able to interpret on which is the exact center line, or whether they are off the center line or they are in line with the center line.
A Cat 3 operation is a precision approach at lower than Cat 2 minima. A Category 3 approach is a precision instrument approach and landing with no decision height or a decision height lower than 100 feet and a runway visual range not less than 700 feet. Now from Lagos to Bayelsa, where the airport there is generating controversy after its initial inaugural landing and takeoff of flight on February the 14th, 2019. 9 months after, the airport does not have its approval for flight activity. The state governor, Sereke Dixon, takes journalists to the airport and insists the facility is not flooded.
This airport runway is not flooded. You are all on the runway with me right now. And this is the height of the rainy season. This is the height of the flood. You have also seen the height of the dredging. Where you are standing is almost at the height of some of the trees on the other side. It took the government of this state over 1 year to do the sand filling, the dredging. I make bold to say that our airport is one of the best airports in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the cost of this airport, as at now, even with our difficult, nearly impossible terrain, with all that we have had to do, and with these 7 years that we have been working on this project, as at now, our cost is about 70 billion. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and other related agencies to let us have the approval needed, not to play politics anymore with our development.
Alongside officials and contractors of the airport, the governor inspects the terminal building, control tower, power station and the 3.5 kilometers runway. The Bayelsa International Airport is about 40 minutes away from Lagos by air, and many expect that both passenger and cargo operations into this airport may help change the socio-economic narrative of the state.
Development of the bank's framework and guidelines.
Improving infrastructure at the nation's airports will require a mix of investments from the federal government and the private sector. That's coming from some experts. They are also of the opinion that some airports in Nigeria cannot be concessioned.
To talk of privatizing them or concessioning them, the people that take concessions want to make money. They want to be sustainable first. So I think in line with the context of our situation, it is the responsibility of government to develop the infrastructure of an infant industry such as aviation in Nigeria. I still believe it is the responsibility of government to continue to develop these airports until they get to a level of concession. If you say you want to concession Lagos, you want to concession Abuja, it will make business sense because of the level of traffic and the potential for growth. But to say that you concession all the airports in Nigeria, I really do not see the economics behind it, because the private sector that is coming to do it wants to make money above all.
If we make Lagos or Kano or Abuja a hub, not just for the Nigerian airlines, but for all of the airlines, flights from Europe to South Africa, some of them avoid Nigerian airspace because we don't have the radar coverage, and even if they flew over, you wouldn't know they're there. But because we don't have the equipment, they don't know what they're flying into, and they want to avoid your airspace because your fees, your overflight charges are exorbitant. Reduce the overflight charges, and everybody will fly over Nigerian airspace, you make some money.
Aircraft manufacturer Airbus says it has seen a growing demand of its services in China. At the second China International Import Expo in Shanghai, the CEO of Airbus says China remains a large aviation market with great potentials for growth.
It hasn't peaked when it comes to aviation. We're still growing, and we see the demand for connectivity from the Chinese people is very strong. Only a fraction of the Chinese population is traveling by plane. And we were discussing earlier today with some officials. They consider as well that we are far from peak. We are still growing. There's a lot of potential. Potential for traveling inside China, but also traveling outside of China. And the connectivity between China and the neighbors is growing with many different types of airlines. The fares are quite accessible, and there is a middle class, like in other countries, which is growing and which is accessing to the possibility to travel. And once you have started to travel, you really enjoy it. That's why we think.
At the world's biggest industry show in Las Vegas, luxury jets are luring buyers with their sleek silhouettes, plush cabins, and increasingly their use of alternative fuels. Fuel producers and jet makers are keen to showcase novel forms of aviation fuel deemed less harmful to the climate, from used cooking oil to the distinctly less glamorous meat waste. Business jet operators like airlines have bowed to environmental pressure on aviation and committed to halving carbon emissions by 2050 compared with 2005.
So we see a lot of benefits in sustainable aviation fuel. So if we look at the marketplace in a broad perspective, the buyers themselves are evolving. Social enterprise, sustainability are becoming a lot more important factors in the purchase decision of any product, let alone business jets. So having a solution like that available to them really helps kind of mesh with their corporate mandates or their personal mandates in terms of being more sustainable and acting in a more environmentally friendly. Well, we think it's a key pillar in our response to overall climate change. So the business aviation industry has signed the Business Aviation Commitment to Climate Change, which will see us reduce emissions by 50% by 2050. And sustainable alternative fuels are the key pillar to help meet or even exceed those targets.
And now let's see how astronauts are preparing for commercial space travel.
An animation of the Boeing's new Starliner spacecraft docking at the International Space Station aboard. A crew of veteran US astronauts and aviators in training for a manned mission to the International Space Station aboard.
It's getting exciting. I mean, not often do you get to fly a brand new airplane, and even less frequently do you get to fly a brand new spaceship, but it's getting pretty exciting. It's getting pretty real too.
We see that the spacecraft is, is great control.
Just trying to think of how I can make the predictors look like a little heart for Ray on the ground.
I want to hang out for half a day and figure out what's going on.
So we can still recover from forward park.
Oh, sure. But RelNav will diverge.
If it diverges, then.
This is part of plans to use the Starliner to take tourists into space on future missions. Chris Ferguson, a former NASA astronaut and retired U.S. Navy captain who helped design the way the crew interacts with the automated Boeing CST-100 Starliner, will lead its maiden voyage.
I think the idea is to make space be and seem a little bit more of a friendly environment. I don't think we'll ever get to the point that carrying passengers in a spacecraft will be like carrying passengers in an airliner, but we're a company that does both, and we're going to do our best at making it as safe and comfortable as it can be for somebody who maybe didn't grow up as an astronaut.
The exercises include training underwater to simulate spacewalks, responding to emergencies aboard the space station, and practicing docking maneuvers on a flight simulator. It will be the first trip into space for man, a female former Navy combat pilot who said she was looking forward to the excitement a fresh American-based crewed mission to space will create among a young generation.
It's incredibly important that we launch from America again. I mean, we haven't launched the shuttle since back in 2011, and I barely remember that. And so I think it's going to be huge for Americans. It's going to be huge for the younger generation to see us launching from American soil, that we're bringing work and industry, back to the United States. I think it'll open up a lot more jobs. It'll open a lot more innovation for that young generation. And there's a big future of spaceflight in front of us. And so this is the first step. Launching Americans from American soil is the first step in our focus of space exploration.
The Boeing Starliner mission was originally scheduled for this mission in August 2019, but that has been delayed to the end of the year or into 2020 due to technical issues and a shakeup in the top ranks of the space agency.
So far, we've only had about 500 people go to space. That's so few compared to the 7 or 8 billion people on planet Earth. And so this opportunity with the Commercial Crew Program is really going to open up the frontier so more and more people can go to space. So hopefully in the next 10 years, it'll go from 500 to 5,000, and the next 20 years, maybe even 50,000 or more. And it'd be great to have more people see what I've seen.
I wish everybody on the planet would have the ability to take a lap around the planet once, just to see it from that perspective. And I think this is the door that's opening to allow more and more folks who aren't professional astronauts to be able to go to space, see our planet, and recognize that we actually do just have one home. Probably we should take care of it, and probably we should be a little bit nicer to each other. So I think this is a huge step in making that happen.
The Starliner mission will lay the groundwork for Boeing's commercial flight program, which includes carrying passenger and cargoes to the space station and taking tourists into space.
Earth it's a very small blue marble out there, and I don't think we're doing a wonderful job of being good custodians. I think we're getting better. I think we understand, but at the same time, we're continuing to pile more people on it. Where we got to believe that if not a breaking point, where do we reach the point that, sort of enough is enough, and we need to wake up and really begin to pay attention, because if we develop a long-term problem with our Earth, it's going to take generations and generations to modify it. So that's probably my one. You just realize how fragile it is when you look at it. It's beautiful, but very fragile.
This is where our flight stops on this edition. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.